The Nigerian government's planned fuel subsidy cuts may have far-reaching consequences for the country's economic structure. Let's head over now to Lagos, Nigeria, where Ayo Obe, who's a partner at Ogunsola Shonibare Legal Practitioners, is standing by. Ayo, thanks so much for your time. Obviously, the broader plan is to deregulate the oil sector, and within that is this idea of removing fuel subsidies. We heard that it could happen as early as January of 2012. How's the market? How is society digesting this news?
Well, I think that society remains quite hostile to the idea of deregulating the price of fuel products. Every time the government talks about this, and they've been talking about it for many years now, they always say that we will increase the price of petrol or remove the subsidy and that we will cushion the effects. The problem is that we never see the cushion. And many of us feel that if you're going to throw people out of the window, you put the cushion in place first. You don't throw people out and then start discussing the kind of cushion. And that's so that lack of visible cushion is what is making the people still hostile to the idea.
Give us an understanding of why fuel subsidies are important in Nigeria. Often we say this is the one thing that Nigerians believe is a benefit of living in an oil-rich country, is that at least refined product is partly subsidized, reducing the cost on household expenditure. How does it work?
Well, it's really not clear, and I think that part of the problem is that government keeps on talking about removing the subsidy, and they will from time to time increase the price, but without really explaining that they themselves have a full grasp of the figures. They do talk about the fact that the fuel subsidy leads to corruption and to a few people benefiting, but they don't seem to be able to explain why they have failed to get a hold of the fuel market and be able to explain why they're spending so much money and that it's going down the drain.
Nigerians, because of the electricity issues in the country, tend to use generators, and often each household has 2 generators, one specifically for the fridge and then for general domestic consumption. The fuel that's utilized in those generators, is that fuel subsidized by the government?
Well, there are 2 types of generator. I mean, there's the diesel generator, and the diesel price is not subsidized by the government, or the price is certainly very high. And then many people are turning to the petrol generator simply because they're apparently easier to maintain. And the fuel for those is obviously bought at petrol stations along with the fuel for the cars.
Okay, so inflationary risks, because obviously that's what's going to happen. You remove a subsidy, people have to dig deeper into their pockets. Unless wages are changing, it's going to create a bit of a problem.
Well, the problem is that because the people who are in charge or who are making the decisions are generally government people whose costs are subsidized by the government, or company executives whose costs are subsidized by their companies, they don't really understand how it affects ordinary people in their lives. And I think that it's that lack of imagination which is really the problem, because if that imagination about the lives of ordinary people were there, then the measures that would be necessary to alleviate it would also be in place, because it's not just a matter of increasing people's salaries and wages. People often don't have the capacity to get their salaries and wages increased, and therefore they will bear the brunt without getting the benefits that are supposed to accrue from increasing the price of petrol.
From the government side, they're saying that, you know, they keep on having recurrent expenditures. They're not using the taxpayers' money, public funds, constructively. And these subsidies is one way of ensuring that they make windfall savings as a state and start to invest money into things like infrastructure and education and other human development components of the economy. That's what government is arguing.
Well, the problem is that government has been arguing this all along, but one of the demands of Labour, certainly in responding to the demand for the government's suggestion that they should stop subsidising the price of fuel, is tell us how much you are spending and why you are spending it. We don't see any visible evidence of belt tightening on the part of government, and therefore there's no confidence that even if the price of petrol is increased, the government will not continue to fritter away that any any money that they get on appointing more advisors, creating more institutions of government, devising more states, dividing the country into more states, all of which are consumers rather than producers for the national gross domestic product.
There is another dimension, Ayo, and that's the fuel retailers as well, is that they benefit extraordinarily, we're told, from fuel subsidies. Now, how do they come into the component of being subsidized when effectively they are the retailers?
Well, this is the problem about the government's case that they have failed to make. The retailers are not supposed to benefit. If they're benefiting, it's for government to tighten any loopholes and to get hold of its products. But because the government, and we've seen this from the NAITI, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, the government really hasn't gotten hold of its oil industry, and therefore a lot of what it seems to be doing is dancing in the dark and saying, well, we'll try this, and when we see the result, then we'll know whether what we did was right or not.
Right.
The problem is that the experimental field is the Nigerian people.
And finally, the petroleum industry bill is an eventuality. We're just not sure when, once it's promulgated into law. That's broad-based deregulation of both the downstream and upstream side of the oil business. How do ordinary Nigerians feel about this?
Well, ordinary Nigerians are being told that it's going to revolutionize things and allow the country to take control of its oil industry. But we're baffled at the delays that this bill has been subjected to. And there's a lot of disquiet about the fact that it seems to be going on and on without any resolution. One would certainly have expected that it would have been legislation and operating before the government starts talking about punishing the people with a subsidy removal. But it may be that the government feels that everything will come together in a marvelous conglomeration of events, but we're yet to see it.
I love your colorful use of the English language. Ayo Obe, she's a partner at Ogunsola Shonibare Legal Practitioners, just critiquing the proposed removal of fuel subsidies and its impact on the broader economy.